Friday, August 23rd, 2024. God, I hate the dates. And last night was the fourth and final night of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And it was definitely Kamala's night. Um, this one didn't quite have the like rock concert energy of the previous nights. Tuesday and Wednesday were definitely kind of like raucous, like that. This is it's total enthusiasm, momentum. This was I had still a lot of energy, but this one was definitely much more about making sure we're answering the questions or concerns about Kamala Harris and making sure that we're getting messages to all the people that need to hear them, whether they be different kinds of constituents that they're concerned about or different geographic areas that maybe need some concern. It was whoever put this thing together was kind of brilliant because tonight, it was there was so much focus on um, uh, both politicians from and discussions about battleground states. Marcus Frost from Florida. I love Marcus Frost. I think he's the youngest member of Congress. He's freaking fantastic. Um, but and bringing in people like Adam Kinzinger to show we're the big tent, right? Everybody's welcome here. I thought his speech was fantastic about, hey, I get it. I know where you are as a Republican, but there's room for you over here. Join me over here. I thought that was pretty freaking brilliant. And it's like at this point, it's like I don't even know why people stay Republican. I get it; they have these ideas about smaller government, blah 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 blah. But there isn't much about the. You can't say you want everybody to do better and then take away regulations because capitalism without regulations ends up to slavery. Like I don't see how they don't see that path and the hypocrisy of what they're saying. But anyway, so the sort of the Big Ten, and very specifically like bringing out the exonerated five. That like there's a concern about black men, so she's like there's Wes Moore, and it was very clear that they were getting trying to drive home messages to people that they think need to hear them. It certainly was not a night for the base. It wasn't for people like me. It wasn't for people that are already excited. It wasn't really for the people that were in that room. It was for all the people that just aren't sure, and helping to make them feel sure and helping them be seen, feel seen. Um, so much mention of Pennsylvania. If you looked at, they kept showing those watching parties on the screen, and they were in Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. It's like, where do we hear about those states before? Um, and I mean, even North Carolina's governor came out and gave a speech and actually called out "Stand Up, Michigan, Stand Up, Wisconsin." Like it was like that one was pretty blatant. I can see why he and Mark Kelly were not picked as VPs. Mark Kelly came out, and that was not a rousing speech whatsoever. It was, it's a good speech, it's a good message, but it certainly isn't that like youthful, joyful, energizing kind of thing that Tim Walz can do. Gabby Gifford came out, so there's a couple from Arizona, um, literally a couple. uh, and I get it. It wasn't the most raucous event. There was no Beyonce, there was no Taylor Swift. I really, the internet had me convinced that Beyonce was in the building and that she was gonna sing that freedom song live before Kamala marched on out, but it didn't happen. Just the voice from the sky, ladies and gentlemen. Um, and then Kamala's speech was exactly what she needed to do. It was literally an introduction. Here's my story. Here's what I've done. Here's why I believe the way that I believe, and how I put those beliefs into practice. And then here's what I plan to do and how I plan to lead next. And it went from, stories about mom and folksy, even though she swore, which I thought was great. Um, that's relatable. uh, but it was, you know, it started out folksy and sort of an introduction of her and her life and um, what sort of formed her career and how she goes about her career. I love that they did this all week, kept talking about Kamala Harris for the people. I love that she leaned into that. Um, and then gave very strong um plans about how she's going to deal with they uh they touched on all the things. That was the other thing that they did all night, is they brought out all these people and it was like, okay, we're going to tackle gun violence, we're going to tackle reproductive freedom, and we're going to tackle um taking care of the military, our military and our veterans. Those seem to be the three sort of pillars of what they were trying to message last night, which I think they did quite well. But then she went on to sort of the domestic things, talking about how we can secure the border and be a place of peace for people that want to be here. And then I think she said some great stuff about some global issues that are of concern about Ukraine and about Israel and Palestine, and making sure that she's. I would have liked to have seen a little stronger language, because she said she'll always make sure that Israel has the ability to defend itself. But then she gave some hard language about making sure that the people of Palestine are safe and have their agency to have their own um, domain. So it was I think she did a brilliant fucking job. um, I did in the back of my head, because I was I was at my mother's house a few weeks ago, and every time an ad would come on, and Kamala Harris's voice would be narrating it, or you'd see clips of her speaking. My mother would, like, literally every time it came on, my mother would say, "Her voice just isn't that strong," and it's like, shut up, just. And this was strong. So I don't know if my mother watched it or not, but in the back of my head, I just kept thinking, is this strong enough for my mother? I hope so. I mean, I know she's going to vote for her because she's boy, is she annoyed with Trump, and I think that there's a couple of things working in our favor in that his crazy is turning people away, which is great. Um, the Republican response to Gus Walz is exactly the difference between the two parties. Um, you know, Ann Coulter and Dinesh D'Souza and all these idiots, fucking soulless trolls, making fun of Gus Walz and his emotional outburst to his dad, um, is exactly what you get with the Republican Party, whereas the Democratic Party is reduced to tears about this kid showing this emotion. I don't think you get a better stark contrast of what's available between the two parties. And there's a phrase she kept using about Trump, his explicit something. It was very prosecutorial. Like it was like that was a little bit of a trial, which was, I can't remember what it was. His can't remember what phrase, but she repeated it, just to make sure it was like, this is of his own free will that he is doing these things. Um, and so yeah, I think that achieved everything we needed to do. I it's we've still got a lot of work to do between now and the election and the lawsuits that are going to come right after it. Um, but they've been saying since Wednesday that RFK Jr. is going to announce that he's going to end his candidacy and join the Trump team. And there's all sorts of theories that Trump's going to dump JD Vance and pick RFK Jr. I don't think he can at this point. Um, I also don't think that moves the needle in any way whatsoever. RFK Jr. was, I think, an option for people who didn't want to vote for Trump but still wanted crazy, and can't bring themselves to vote for a Democrat. I don't think this is going to really move the needle a lot. Um, and uh, you know, um, he, yeah, he doesn't add anything to that ticket either. He just adds more crazy. So if you're already in for the crazy, like, I don't know what are you gonna do? But uh, so the convention, I think we got everything we wanted out of it. Am I a little disappointed we didn't get a Beyonce Taylor moment? Yes, but there's time for that. Um, and one more thing that I will finish on because we were talking about the other side for a hot second. There's this video of JD Vance in Georgia at a donut shop trying to order donuts. And there's these two young people behind the counter. One's a female and one's a male. And the female says, I don't want to be on camera. And so JD says to the crew, she doesn't want to be filmed. So just like cut her out of that. And then he tries to make small talk and order donuts. And he asks the woman how long she's worked there. He says, I'm JD Vance and I'm running for vice president. And she goes, yeah. Then he says, asks her how long she's worked there. And he answers. And then he says, asks the guy, how long have you worked there? And he says, about 2 years. And he says, okay. Like, it's the only question he has to engage in small talk. How long you worked here? Oh. And then nothing. Like, he doesn't have any follow up. Then he finally asked how long the business had been there. And they said about 4 years. And he went, okay. And then he was like, then he had to order donuts. He's like, there's a lot of glazed and something and some cinnamon rolls, whatever you think is good. Like just order some donuts. It's not that difficult. Give them a number. I would like 7 of those and 6 of those and 5 of those and 3 of those. Like, it's not, how do you not know how to order donuts? What an idiot. It does feel like an episode of Veep, and somebody brilliantly actually took the footage of him in that donut shop not being able to interact with people and being super awkward and weird and put the Veep closing credits next to it. And it's like, it definitely comes right out of that show. So bizarre. It's just like, he has such a hard time being a human being, which is also such a stark contrast to everything that we saw over the last 4 nights, where it was nothing but humanity and empathy and inclusion. It's like, I said this yesterday. I don't know what kind of a person you have to be to not want to see an America that that looks like that. I just don't get it. I get the other side is they're in it for the bigotry. I get it. They're in it for the bigotry. I understand that. And I understand that exists in this country, fairly widespread. But I just don't see how people can have that much hate in their heart when there's so much opportunity. Like, this was such a great convention to show heart and hope and optimism and possibility rather than fear and division and hatred. So, I'm very hopeful for November. It's just, we got to make sure that we get all those people out there to vote, because it needs to be decisive and definitive. And those battleground states in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, even Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, we need to make sure that those are not narrow, thin margins. I wish I could go everywhere and drive everyone to the polls or show them how to fill out a mail-in ballot. That's the other thing. Why can't we all just vote by mail? When Republicans try to restrict voting, why do you want to vote for a party that does that? Anyway, enough of my ranting about them. I feel like I got what I wanted out of the convention. I think whoever organized it was freaking brilliant. And all right, let's go do some work for the next 75 days.